My name is Albert L. Walter, Sergeant, 9th Air Force of the 354th Fighter Group. Following Patton, everything was real low to the ground. No more high altitude stuff, because we had pretty well taken over the ruling of the sky. So all of our P-51s were down on the ground, watching about 50 feet, pulling up wires and everything. We had a good bunch of pilots that they weren't, I wouldn't think they were officers, because the pilots, they didn't want to associate with the staff. They'd rather be with the enlisted men, because they were the guys that were keeping the airplanes in the air. And then we got on the Patton's trail, and he was a hard man to keep up with.
In 1942, he stepped forth like some warrior of old to lead and inspire vast forces of men. At a pace never equaled, his Third Army swept across the continent of Europe. No American leader was more colorful and more successful. General George S. Patton, Jr., dedicated to glory and the victory that was won. The name, the symbol, the victories, our history.
He would run his tanks. He would be told to go so many miles. Well, he didn't pay attention to that. He went as far as his fuel would take him, and then he'd run out of gas for his tanks. And then it was up to the air transport guys in the C-47s to bring fuel up to Patton. And then away we'd go again. And then we'd move to right at Thanksgiving of 1944, we were at a base just outside of Paris. And lo and behold, it was about Thanksgiving, and the Seine River overflowed. And so we were in about 4 feet of water. Then it started snowing. And I mean, it was one of the coldest winters I've ever. Anyway, we moved up into Nancy, and that's when we had P-47s. They took away all of our Mustangs, and we had the P-47s, which were nicknamed Jugs. It was the Jug. You couldn't shoot it down. It's a pretty tough airplane. But then we went back to Mustangs about a month. We got our good old Mustangs back at Christmas time. That's when the Germans overrun us, and they were holed up in this little town.
Bastogne in Belgium will long be remembered as the site of the heroic stand of the isolated 101st Airborne Division. Supreme Commander Eisenhower, in the midst of historic battlefields, honors the Screaming Eagles in a ceremony without parallel in war history.
It is a great personal honor for me to be here today to take part in a ceremony that is unique in American history. Never before has a full division been cited by the War Department in the name of the President for gallantry in action.
They had a pretty tough time, those guys, because the storm was so bad that we couldn't give them any support. And they stuck it out.
The 101st withstood von Rundstedt's final effort to break the Allied offensive when he endeavored to spearhead an attack through Belgium during the Battle of the Bulge. General Eisenhower himself salutes the heroic division.
You've heard the old saying, when they sent in a white flag and the colonel said nuts, and the German said was ist nuts.
General McAuliffe turned down the German demand for surrender with the famous word nuts. Against heavy odds, the Yanks stood firm. From such bravery, victory is forged.
And by golly, we held out. As soon as the weather got good, then we moved them out. Well, when I found out I was going to get a ride, I was dumbfounded first. And I couldn't wait to get out here to this aircraft. Then they said, climb in. Well, that was my legs don't stretch that much because of my two knee replacements. So we had quite a time getting me plugged in there. It's a good thing we didn't have to ever bail out of it. I never got and that was such a delight. Getting back to that ride, when I got out to the airport, which was about 10 miles from where the get-together was, oh boy, there was two of these beautiful airplanes. And I could just visualize 45 of them. And then it hit me, I'm gonna finally get a ride in one of these fellas. And I tell you, that was in all my, well, let's see, 65 years maybe, I've been working on these things for 3 straight years almost. And that was my first chance to get a ride. And boy, I'll tell you, it was a thrill. That was one of my bucket lists. It really, yeah, #1. That was wonderful. Yeah, I'll never forget these airplanes. They grow on you, and everything about it. When we took off, I could feel the gear coming up, and it clicked. And then when we landed again, I feel the gear coming down, click. I mean, I flew, but nothing. All I had was a little Luscombe. After I got out of service, I had a little Luscombe. I like to fly, but there was no